The National Museum of the Republic of Kazakhstan is a treasured component of our national history, an integral part of our culture, and an unrivaled project of national importance. The museum was founded in 2nd July 2014 on the order of the President of Republic of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev. The museum's exhibition space ranges over an area of 14,000 square meters, spread across 7 wings. In addition, the total area of the museum is 74,000 square meters, placing it in the top 10 largest museums in the world and making it ostensibly the largest museum in Central Asia. The National Museum's centerpiece multi-story building adorns the Astana skyline and blends in harmoniously with its surrounding on Independence Square. It is the final piece of the jigsaw comprising the Kazakh State Monument, the Palace of Independence, the Palace of Peace and Concord, National University of the Arts, and the Hazret Sultan Mosque.
Now, dear guests, welcome to the National Museum. My name is Nurassyl. I am a guide of this museum. This museum, built in 2013, 2nd July. It's one of the biggest museums in Central Asia. The total area of that museum takes 74,000 square meters. In the entrance hall of this museum, we can see a 20-meter golden eagle with a golden sun that's symbolizing national flag of Kazakhstan. In this position, on the right side, we can see the 3 compositions that painted by one of the famous artists in Kazakhstan, Erbolat Tulipbay. And these 3 compositions tell about history of formation of Kazakh history. In this position, on the first screen, we can see founders of the Kazakh tribes, Kerey Khan and Janbek Khan. On a second position, we can see a period of 18th century when we can see image of Tauke Khan. In a central position, we can see portrait of the first president that tell about modern time of Kazakhstan. On the left side from you, you can see a media screen where I played video with the achievements of Kazakhstan. And we can see in this position, dear guests, pay attention, the sculpture of the first president that dedicated to the 20th anniversary of the city Astana. This museum consists of 7 floors and 13 halls, and the next hall, it's a hall of ancient and medieval history. In the entrance hall of this museum, we can see a lot of work from famous designers of Kazakhstan. And we can see a lot of work that stay on top floors. One of them, it's a work from Shokan Tolesh, Kerbez Astana. Pay attention. Now we stay in a hall of ancient and medieval history. In this hall, we can see a lot of exhibits that tell about ancient history of Kazakhstan to the medieval history. And one of them, it's a finding from stone period. It's a primitive people cave. A lot of archaeologists have information that in the territory of Kazakhstan, from stone period, different tribes living in different positions of Kazakhstan, and they have primitive people caves like this. This hall have a 4 parts. First, it's tell about the stone period. Next, it's tell about the bronze era. And next, it's the iron era. And at the end of this hall, we can see history and the exhibits of medieval time of Kazakhstan. In ancient history of Kazakhstan, it's one of the famous findings. It's Botai houses from northern part of Kazakhstan. Without the needles, they construct and build these buildings. And we can see it's the first type of the traditional nomadic house. One of the famous findings in this museum, it's a Tobol sinker that find near the river Tobol. It's an exhibit that tell about bronze period of Kazakhstan. Pay attention. One of the famous findings from early iron period, it's a big praying exhibit that find from territory of Jetesu near the Almaty region. Pay attention to the construction of this exhibit. We can see different animal styles that using ancient people in this exhibit. The form of this exhibit is different from any position. In this position, we have a lot of exhibits that tell about ancient tribes of Kazakhstan. One of them is the Sarmats period, Hunnas period, Usun and Kangla. It's the name of the tribes that living in the territory of Kazakhstan. In every period of that time, they find a lot of exhibits, and you can see all of them in the National Museum of the Republic of Kazakhstan. In 1 and 2 centuries millennium BC, in the territory of Kazakhstan starting the Silk Road that connect eastern and the western culture of Kazakhstan. In this position, we can see a lot of exhibits that tell about traders, that tell about culture, that moving from ancient time to the medieval history. Now you can see the reconstruction of the market located in the medieval city of Turkestan. The markets of the Great Silk Road closely linked the culture of the western and the eastern part of Kazakhstan. One of the famous is the Golden Man. We have a tour with the Golden Man in all over the world. Over 1.5 million people see the Golden Man exhibition in different countries. Pay attention. In an entrance exposition of the Hall of Gold, we can see a mythical tree by Terek that connect different worlds. And in this exposition, we used over 30,000 lamps. Pay attention. In this media screen, we can see how the ancient tribes that live in the territory of Kazakhstan finding gold, gold mining. After, how they producing that gold. The procession of the making gold. Different jewelries, pieces of jewelries, consisting materials of custom. One of the famous findings in the territory of Kazakhstan is the Golden Man. Today it's one of the popular and one of the famous in the territory of Kazakhstan finding from archaeologists. Pay attention, dear guest, it's a Golden Man. Why they call it this finding like a Golden Man? Because over 4,000 jewelries find near the city Almaty, Issyk, Kurgan, over 4,000 jewelries that tell about 4 and 3 centuries millennium BC. It's a unique finding that tell about one of the king of that time. Pay attention to the costume of Golden Man. Over 4,000 jewelries with a unique style that using in a decoration, animal style. In a head position, they find over 150 jewelries. Archaeological work starting in 1969 by one of the famous archaeologists and his team, Kemal Aykeshev. Today we have a tour of Golden Man, and the Golden Man, it's one of the famous popular finding. Today we're using all of these symbols in the state symbols of Kazakhstan. For example, we have a coat of arms. In a coat of arms they're using these two animals like horses with wings and the horns. In this position we can see different weapons and the tools that tell about 4 and 3 centuries millennium BC. And the unique finding from this burial tomb, it's 2 bowls. For example, pay attention to this bowl that have a unique language writing. This writing tell about the history of the formation language of the Scythians and the Sakas tribe that living in the territory of Kazakhstan in that time. The unique finding, it's a bowl that find from this burial tomb, and pay attention to the language that they're using in that time, and it's tell about history of the formation of the own language of the Scythian tribes that living in the territory of Kazakhstan. They have their own language, they have their own culture, tradition. One of the famous burial tombs, it's in the eastern part of Kazakhstan. From Altai Mountains, we have a unique findings that tell about 4 and 3 centuries millennium BC. One of the famous archaeological findings in the territory of Kazakhstan, it's the Berez Kurgan. Berez burial tomb located in the eastern part of Kazakhstan near the Altai Mountains. And for your attention, we have a copy of that place. For your attention, we have the bones of horses that find from this place. And the burial sarcophage, where we find the bones of men and women between 35-30 years old. And we can see exactly how they look, the horses, before the burial ceremony. And pay attention, we have a reconstruction of the horses before the burial ceremony. They're using a lot of horse equipments, decorational things in the burial ceremony, and the archaeologists tell that it's one of the burial tomb of the king and the woman of that time, between 4 and 3 centuries millennium BC. Today, archaeologists continue their archaeological works, and for your attention, we have today over 6 golden findings in the territory of Kazakhstan. One of them we can see in this position, one of them in the end of this hall. For example, for your attention, we have a 3rd golden finding that find from eastern part of Kazakhstan, Shilykta district. This exhibit tell about 8 and 7 centuries millennium BC. It's tell about one of the king of the Scythian tribe. In the western part of Kazakhstan, this finding, it's one of the popular one. It's called like a tax-sized princess. In this position, we can see a lot of jewelries, over 4,000 ancient golden jewelries that dedicated for one person. It's a woman. And it's still about not only culture, it's still about tradition, it's still about own culture and the tradition of these tribes that living in the territory of Kazakhstan in ancient time. They're using different ceremonies, they're using in the decoration different jewelries that have an animal style like this. Now, dear guests, we stay in a hall of ethnography. And in this hall we have a traditional cultural exhibits of Kazakhstan and Kazakh people between 19th and 20th centuries. For example, in a central position of this hall we have a traditional nomadic house. It's called like a yurt. In English, in Russian language it's called like a yurta. In Kazakh language it's called like a kizi. The meaning of that word, it's a felt house. Kazakh people can easily assemble it and reassemble this house. For example, in 1 or 2 hours, they can easily assemble it and reassemble this house. They're moving from one side to another over 6 and 7 times. For example, we can enter to the yurt with the right leg. Now we are entering to the yurt. It's a traditional nomadic house. And first of all, I want to take this musical instrument. It's a traditional Kazakh instrument that called like a dombra. And I want to play to our guests. Invite and sitting like this. And I want to play for our guests one of the music. For example, it's looking like this. Yeah, it's one of the musical composition I love and I want to share with our guests. And pay attention, it's inside, it's look very beautiful. We stay in a beautiful position. It's main position when the guest coming. It's called like in Kazakh language tur. On the right side we can see hunters equipments, musical instruments that we see before. I play before in a musical instrument like a dombara. And it's a skin of wolves. We have a lot of famous hunters and the masters. Yeah. In this position we have traditional ornaments that using in a carpet decoration. It's different carpets and the different vessels that outside they're using horse bones in the decoration. For example, we have different dishes and vessels where we're transporting the traditional type of milk like kamaz and the shubat. And the design of this torsak is one of the famous vessels in Kazakh history. They're using outside skin of leather and skin of in different countries, in different position in our countries, they're using leather, skin of horses, skin of sheep, skin of camels. Yeah. We have a lot of masters that using different technologies. And for your attention, in this media screen we have horse equipments. For example, it's a man's saddle. On the left side we can see women's saddle. It's covered with the silver and the precious stones. Special techniques that they're using in the decoration we can see exactly in these horse equipments. The materials, it's iron, precious stones that find from territory of Kazakhstan and the special type of wood. The producers of masters between 18th and the 19th century we can see in this media screen. For example, it's the boots of 18th century and different vessels where we're transporting the traditional type of milk like a kamaz and the shubat. It's fermented horse milk and the fermented camel's milk. One of the traditional type of sport in Kazakhstan it's hunting with eagles and the Z type of dogs. For example, for one type of that eagle in ancient time, the hunters give 15-20 camels for exchange. Yeah. And in this position we have different traps that they're using in hunting and photos of the hunters and the photos of the traditional type of dogs like a taza. It's a special type of hunting dog. In the territory of Kazakhstan, from ancient time we have different type of religion. One of them, the main of them, it's tell about medieval time and it's tell about Islamic religion. In this position we have different exhibits that tell about the period of entering the Islamic religion in the territory of Kazakhstan. In this position we have a non-cultural heritage of the Kazakhstan. It's certificates from UNESCO that tell about how to assemble the traditional nomadic house, how to play with the musical instrument dombara, and tell about traditional celebrating traditional holidays of Kazakhstan like Nurassyl. Next media screen tell about the traditional musical instruments of Kazakh people. From ancient time, from ancient cities, they find different type of musical instruments. For example, we have a dombara, one of the famous and the popular musical instrument. We have ringing instruments, blowing instruments, and all of them, it's a part of the culture and the tradition of Kazakhstan. In this position we have traditional Kazakh carpets. For example, pay attention, this side and this side. The next position we can see a Kazakh traditional costume of Kazakh people between 19th and the 20th century. And a continuous collection, it's a silver jewelries in this position. The next hall tells about spaceship area of Kazakhstan. For example, in this hall we have the first cosmonauts and astronauts of Kazakhstan and the rocket, model of the rocket that called like a Proton M. And the transporting satellite KazSat. The Hall of Independence. Official Kazakhstan take independence in 1991, 16 December. In this hall we have a lot of exhibits and information about new modern Kazakhstan. For your attention, in this media screen we have state symbols, and first we can see a traditional Kazakh flag of Kazakhstan, coat of arms, and hymn of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Paradian clothes of military defense of Kazakhstan, and the territory of Kazakhstan and the bordered countries. This hall equipped with the modern technologies, and one of them is a 3D media screen and a 3D guide. For example, pay attention, in this position we can see the monument like a Bayterek, how it looks outside, and how it looks inside. And you can take a fully information in this hall in a different media screens that stay in this hall, that tell about medicine, education, that tell about sport. One of the famous sculpture in this position, it's still about work from Bakhtiyar Amanalievich. It's still about three terms. It's teenagers of Kazakhstan, and it's still about religion and the culture, and the first president of Kazakhstan, and the Assembly of the Nations of Kazakhstan. In this position we can see state hours and the first value that called like a tenge, that established in 1993. Now, dear guests, welcome to the Hall of Nur Sultan. In this hall you can acquaint with the different exhibits and historical information about the city from ancient time to the modern time. And this hall equipped with over 800 media screens on the ground. On the left side we can see media screens with different information about the capital. In this media screen we can acquaint with the exhibits that tell about settlement Bozok. And this settlement date 6th and the 7th centuries AD. Archaeologists, who was one of the famous archaeologists in Kazakhstan, Kemal Akishev, starting archaeological work in a territory of the Nurassyl region, and they find a settlement that tell about ancient history of the ancient city. For your attention, it's a settlement Bozok that dates 6th and the 7th centuries AD. It's the image of the city of ancient time. The period of 18th-19th century, a fortress that has turned into a city. To strengthen the political influence, to develop the commerce and the industry, Russia needed a convention transit point. These factors were determined in 1830, the choice of location on the banks of the Nurassyl River in the tract Karautkel for a steep outpost. Over time, the small military fort became the city of Akmola. Afterwards, Akmola became a major trade center and assembly point of caravans. On there became way from Central Asia to the European and Asian part of Russia and back. Akmola was declared a regional city. In 1920, the Akmola province was formed. Many historical events and the decisions of national importance were closely connected with the name of this city. Akmola became a sacred land which gave birth to great heroes. The next screen tells about changing the capital from 1994 to 1998 to the Akmola after becoming Astana. Changing capital from Almaty to the Akmola from 1994, and in this position we can see a lot of information, a lot of photo documents that tell about moving the capital from Akmola to Astana to the central part of the city. In this position we can pay attention to the key of the city that gifted to the first president of Kazakhstan. Pay attention. Every building in Astana was adopted by Nursultan Nazarbayev, and he gives the idea to filling the scratch pay attention, the first drawing of the first president Elbасы, Nursultan Nazarbayev, first drawing monuments and the buildings. Elbасы Nursultan Nazarbayev signed a decree on March 19, 2019 on the resignation of the president. On March 20, 2019, Kasım-Jomart Tokayev proposed to rename the capital of the Kazakhstan Nur-Sultan after Nursultan Nazarbayev. Members of both houses of parliament voted unanimously for the renaming. After Kazakhstan take independence, we have a lot of achievements in different zones. For example, we have information about economical zone of Astana in this position. Today, we have a lot of information about medicine buildings and the medicine employers. For example, we have medals and the cups and the different information about different universities that built in Astana. Astana Opera building, it's one of the famous building in Astana. And the next, we can see a lot of information about sport clubs of Kazakhstan in the Winter Olympic Games in 2011. It's a concept of planting greenery in Nur-Sultan for 2007-2030. Elbası has set a task to surround the city with forests in order to improve the environment, keep winds and the blizzards and protect the city from dust. The capital of Kazakhstan is associated in the world community with political events of truly global scale. The city has hosted meetings of the councils of heads of state and the government of such international organizations as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Commonwealth of Independent States, the Eurasian Economic Community. The capital regularly hosts the Congress of Leaders of World and the Traditional Religions, the Astana Economic and other internationally important events. The capital city hosted the historic OSCE summit in 2010. After excursion, pay attention to the central part of the hall of Nur-Sultan, where is starting the show of Nur-Sultan. I would like to finish the thematic tour of the hall with the words of the first president, who made a significant contribution to the formation of the capital. The present capital of Kazakhstan has arisen not an empty place, but on the territory lived by the men in deep ancient.